Task 7 in our Extend our JavaScript knowledge is the REST operator. The REST operator, which again uses the three dots, dot, 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 is the opposite or the converse of the spread operator. The spread operator spread things out, whereas the REST operator compresses the elements. In other words, it collects the elements. So with a function, for example, we may be required to pass arguments, but we're not really sure of the number of arguments that will be passed. And this is where the REST operator comes into play. So in this example, we can see that the function is called average, and it says dot, 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 which is the REST operator, arguments passed in. So arguments passed in could be one thing, two things, three things, etc. So then we do a console.log, whatever has been passed in. So in the diagram, we can see that when we pass in 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, we can print it out. It's an array. So it takes in the values that we pass in, and it takes them in, and it uses the REST operator. Then after that, we do var average of numbers equals, and we use a reducer. We use the reduce. So we take in the arguments passed in, and the reduce, remember, was a function of the array. So we take in the array, and then we go, I want to add the first number to the second number and keep on going. So we'll do 10 plus 20 is 30, plus 30 is 60, plus 40 is 100, plus 50 is 150, plus 60 is 210. And then we divide by the arguments passed in, which is the array dot length, and there are 6 of them. So 6 into 210 goes 35 times. And then we return the average of the numbers. So the last two parts are really then just using it. So we're going to console.log, we're going to pass in those numbers that we said, and we get back 35. And then we're going to pass in 10, 20, 30. So the array is smaller this time. So we pass in 3 things to it, whereas in the first one we passed in 6, and it will still work out exactly the same way. So let's code. So go back into IntelliJ, right click on the JavaScript, go to new file, and we will call it rest.js. And we'll add our function. And then in the console, we will run the code, or if you want, right click and go to open the integrated terminal, and we go node, and then it's rest.js. So as we see, when we pass in these 6 values, it prints them out because that's what's been passed in. It's an array. And then it does the reduce and works out the average by adding them all up, dividing by the number. And then the second one is only 3 values. So it's an array when it goes in. And then it works out 10 plus 20 is 30, and 30 is 60, divided by 3, which is 20. So now in this one, this slightly bigger task, we want to create a function that accepts a variable number of objects, as we've just seen, and uses the reduce method to merge the objects into a single object. Again, we've done this in the previous one by using the spread operator to create a new object that contains the properties of all the objects. So our 3 objects will be customer, address, and vehicle as before. So we're going to create our code with the 3 objects. This is exactly as we have done before. And then we're going to create our function. In this function, the REST operator dot, dot, dot is used as a parameter to allow the function to accept a variable number of JSON arguments or objects as arguments. So ... objects is our REST operator. And then we will return a ... merged object, comma ... object. That's our spread operator. Yes, they're all ... dots. So it will take in what we pass. In the first example, it will take in the customer, the address, and the vehicle. And then it will merge those into one object. So it will take in the value in here, all three of those, and then it does a reduce, and the reducer then will print out all of them, as we can see in the diagram. And in the second example, we only pass in the customer and the vehicle. So in our code, we will just add the code to the bottom. So we will create, first of all, our three objects. So we have our customer, our address, and our vehicle. And then after that, we want to add in the function that will do the work for us. So this is our function, which takes in the objects, whatever number there are, and then uses the reducer to give me my values. And we will, in this case, pass in the customer object, the address object, and the vehicle object. And then it should return for me from here the merged objects. So if we run the code again in the terminal, little mistake. Just to correct the mistake, the comment was not quite right, so let's run it again. And we can see that what we have now is we have 1, and then 2, and then 3 objects together. So what we have in this case is the customer first of all, then the address, and then the vehicle. And if we now go and change our code, and instead of doing all 3, we'll just do the customer and the vehicle. And we will run the code. And we should be able to see that again we get the object back, but the first part is the customer, and the second part is the vehicle. And that is our REST operator.